with Jesse Gunkel.
Welcome back. Well, even though Marco is a remnant low that happened earlier today, we're still dealing with some impacts. A couple of showers fired off throughout the afternoon, still early evening, still the chance for some passing rain as we make our way into the overnight hours. But notice what's entering the picture. You can see Laura well off in the distance now in the central Gulf. Looking at our Doppler radar, we've got a couple showers kind of sliding through, and there is the potential for 1 or 2 lightning strikes, but most of this is just tropical rain, so expect some quick spurts of rain out there. Just be cautious while you drive out there. A little bit breezy. We've got some winds anywhere from about 5 to 17 miles per hour down in New Orleans, a little bit breezier along the coastline. But again, this is the key topic in the coming days. You still have time to prepare until probably about midday tomorrow. Notice again, we're looking at winds sustained at 85, but we're starting to see that banding around the center here, and I think we're going to start to see this system rapidly intensify overnight, becoming a Category 2 heading into the morning hours of tomorrow. Still no well-defined eye, but that potential is going to happen if we start to see that banding moving forward as the system drags itself into the central Gulf. But here's the other story. Moving west-northwest now at 17. It's been kind of trending on the northern side of all spaghetti models, which is a little bit concerning, and it's also moving a little bit faster than expected, which means we could start to ride that eastern edge just a little bit as it gets closer to the coastline. So as you see here, looking at the big picture, we've got the possibility of still tropical storm warnings, tropical storm force winds, mainly on the western side of the Mississippi River. It does not mean that we're not going to see it in the capital area, in Livingston. There could be a couple gusts over 40 miles per hour right around the red area, 75-mile-an-hour winds and greater. We're talking a lot of areas along the coast could have winds at 115 plus. So again, that causes a lot of damage. You can see just the case for tropical storm force winds, and notice we're talking in the likely category for the capital area here, possibly even extending as far east as the Hammond area, maybe even as far east as LaPlace. So here's the story, and you see by the time the system approaches Cameron about 68, Baton Rouge some winds at about 33, but you can see how that quickly jumps around Lake Charles. Those winds will be just shy of 100 miles per hour, and then it starts to drive through, and then notice what happens. Even here in Baton Rouge, we're talking winds 40 plus, and because it's going to be somewhat persistent, obviously, over a long extended period of time, we still have the potential that we could see trees topple, and if that happens, we could see power outages across the area, and then we got to focus on those rain bands, those feeder bands. You can see that extends back into the Gulf, and that's going to be our ongoing issue heading into Thursday and possibly Friday. So because of those very strong winds out of the Gulf, you can see that storm surge expected to be life-threatening, 9 to 13, pushing a lot of water inland. Notice again, Lake Calcasieu moving into Lake Charles, possibly water moving in as far north as I-10 in a lot of locations because there is a lot of swamp and bayou in between. 4 to 6 a little bit further south, and inland lakes right now at about 2 to 4 at this point. So when you notice the big picture here, this is what I do want to point out. Here's where the storm sits, but it's starting to kind of eat away at that ridge. That ridge has kind of been pushing it towards the west. Well, again, let's hope that that scenario continues to move, and that means more of a western pass because at least now this trough is starting to back into Texas a little bit, and that could still allow that western path. But what again, we're just watching this weakness right in between to see really what happens. Again, wind shear not going to really affect it until maybe it gets right along the coastline. Otherwise, it's a very favorable environment, and that's why they're calling it Category 3 around landfall. And then even far as north as Toledo Bend, possibility of a Category 3 still. Some very strong winds. Shreveport, Category 1 before drifting out of here and then moving back towards the northeast. And the concern here as it makes that track, watch this on Futurecast. Again, I believe this is a pretty good indication as to what's going to happen here. We'll start to see some of those feeder bands move in midday, mainly along the coast, and then build north where you can see as the system approaches the coast, right along the Texas-Louisiana line, some of these feeder bands extend back, but as it starts to drive through the state, we'll see that heavy rain drive into the capital area. And the concern is, you're looking at the Florida parishes, southern Mississippi, all of that leads into the Amite River Basin, the Comite, the Amite, and if we continue to see alarming totals at 6 to 12 inches, maybe 12 plus in some locations, it's all got to drain into those rivers and that entire basin. So we're going to have to watch the river levels very closely as we move forward. But just to give you an idea, 3 to 5 on average, locally we could see some higher amounts. Most of the heavier rainfall will be sitting along the western half of the state. Impacts 3 to 5 here, higher amounts and rain bands, tropical storm force winds. On the other side of the river, the west side, maybe even 1 or 2 wind gusts at hurricane strength. And then obviously look for that storm surge along the coastline. Obviously for us, we've got a lot of rain in the coming days. We really don't move into a drier pattern until maybe late Sunday, going into early Monday at this time. So here you go. You've still got time to prepare at this point, and just remember your skeeter meter remains very high.